Good evening. How's it going tonight? So we're going to be talking about how to heal from a bad breakup. So give us a yell. If you're watching, feel free to ask any questions. I'm always open to questions. Or if you guys have any requests that you want me to talk about, anything to do with love, relationships, dating, anything like that you might have questions about, feel free to comment below or even send me a personal message. Breakups can be really earth-shattering. So when we've been with someone for a really long time, or maybe we just thought that this was the one, and then it kind of all comes crashing down, this can be really, really devastating, right? I think we've all been there. We've all had our heart broken at some point or another. I want to actually explore tonight the concept of bereavement, because people often think that loss and grief and loss is only when someone passes away. But actually, bereavement can mean absolutely anything. It's a lot more broad than what we actually thought. It's any kind of loss. So it can be loss of a job, obviously loss of a big relationship. And when you think about it, I actually think it kind of makes sense, because a bereavement, a loss of a relationship, it kind of does feel like that person has died in a way. Like, not physically, they're probably fine, but the person we knew them as, that partner, that relationship, that spouse, that's gone. And definitely there's going to be a grieving process around that, because maybe they're just our friend now. Maybe we're just not even on good terms, not even a friendship level, where they're just a completely different person than who they used to be. And we've lost our best friend, we've lost our partner. And I think it's completely natural in these situations to need to grieve that situation. And not just grieve the breakup, but also grieve, like, in our minds, the life that we'd planned with this person, we also need to grieve. So thinking about kind of what we'd had in the future, what we could have seen ourselves doing, what it kind of meant to us to be that person's partner, all of these things kind of need to be processed in a way. When you're going through a really, really rough breakup, often what you're feeling is bereavement. And I think it's completely natural that when something was really good, that we really valued, is lost to us, of course we're going to feel that sense of bereavement, that sense of loss from it, because it was that important to us. We need to process that in some way. Often there can be different factors which can play into the loss of a relationship and how hard that can potentially be on people. You can never compare your loss or your grief to someone else. Like, everyone's going to be different. But I think sometimes when we are in those longer relationships, like potentially where you've been with someone for 10 years or something, they just become part of the furniture of your life, right? You're just with them all the time. Maybe you live with them and it's just, that is the norm for you, right? So when we are going through a breakup of someone who we have been with for a really long time and who is the kind of norm in our lives, this is going to be a lot harder to kind of get over than just a breakup, maybe if you were going out with them for 6 months or something like that. Because when you're in a relationship for 6 months, you can remember what it's like to be that single person before you're in that relationship. You remember what it's like to just do your own thing and be your own person. But when you've been with someone for quite a long time, it's almost like you can't remember what it's like to be that person anymore who is single and who does do things on their own. And I guess that is one of the factors that comes into play of why we might be grieving our relationships. It's like that Sex and the City saying, and I wouldn't take this as gospel, but it takes half the time of your relationship to kind of process and let it go. When you've been in a long-term relationship, it can be hard to kind of find your feet again, because you're kind of lost and you're like, how do I get back to what is my new normal? And especially if you felt blindsided by the breakup, maybe someone cheated on someone, or maybe you thought everything was going fantastically and then all of a sudden your partner just breaks up with you out of the blue. This is going to cause feelings like denial, right? Which is a grief and loss feeling, because you weren't expecting it. It wasn't even on your radar to know that this might be something that comes up in the future. Whereas the person who's doing the breaking up with, maybe they've contemplated this for a little while, and therefore they're probably going to process it a bit easier and not have to grieve the relationship for as long as. And also, if you add in the extra layer of, say, if you had a really like horrible breakup and maybe things went pear-shaped and did not go well, of course, the uglier the breakup, I guess, the longer it will take as well to process all of that and all of those feelings as well. So don't be hard on yourself. You know, things take time. And no one can tell you when you're ready to move on and move forward. You know, you've got to kind of figure that out for yourself whenever you are ready. And it's okay if you're not quite ready there, if you're not there yet. If you want to take a few extra years or months, you know, there's no rush on this kind of stuff. Healing is healing. It'll take the time it needs. So how do we heal from a really bad breakup, right? So there's things you can do to kind of work towards moving towards the future. Obviously, you want to rally your friends and family around you. You want to build back up your connections. Often when we are in relationships, we kind of let our friendships slide a little bit. So just building those up again and seeing our close friends and family and being around people who will support us and who will look after us when we are going through that really rough time. Might be certain people aren't good for you when you're in that headspace. So just knowing who the right people are and kind of sticking with them. And they can offer usually another perspective as well. If you are feeling really stuck in certain ways of thinking or things like that, they can just give you that alternate way of looking at things. Finding a hobby can be really good. So going through like, what is that thing I always wanted to do that I've never had enough time for? Maybe you want to, I don't know, join a book club, or maybe you want to do a painting class, something like that. Something you've always wanted to do, but it's just always been put on the back burner because there's always been something else to worry about. I said to someone the other day, I'm like, having a relationship is almost like having a part-time job, or even a full-time job, I suppose, because you're spending quality time with that person. You're putting your time and energy into this person, into your fights, into your good times. So when you come out of that, often you do have a lot of time on your hands, which can be time to overthink things. And when we are in that sad headspace, sometimes too much thinking is not necessarily a good thing. So finding a hobby, keeping ourselves busy, building ourselves back up, like learning new things and being like, look how well I'm doing it, you know, learning Spanish now can be a real mood booster. Obviously, we want to do more self-care. We want to look after ourselves. We want to be doing things that evoke relaxation for us. So whether that's going for walks in nature or massages or baths, whatever it is to really look after ourselves and be tender with ourselves, because I guess we are going to be that little bit more breakable when we have been through a breakup, and things are going to kind of come to the surface, and we're probably not going to be able to handle as much as what we normally can in terms of stress. Also giving yourself the time to fall in a heap if that's what you need. I think processing and emotions is really handy. And I think the blanket rule for this, I like to say, is like, give yourself 72 hours after the breakup, cry it out, eat your ice cream, stay in bed all day if that's what you need. And then once that 72 hours is up, kind of pull yourself back up by your bootstraps and kind of give the world another go again. Like, go back to work, go put yourself out there again. It might be planning a trip away. Maybe you've always wanted to go to Italy or something, and you go to Italy and do all of that. Whatever it is to kind of build you back up again, you know? Keep yourself busy. It's really good to have a good balance of busy time and then also time when we can sit and reflect and maybe journal whatever we are going through as well. Also, volunteer work can be a really good one. I think when we are going through really rough patches in our lives, by being able to give back to community and being able to see that maybe there are others less fortunate out there. For example, maybe you've gone to a soup kitchen and you're helping cook for people who are less fortunate and don't have access to food as easily. This can be really helpful in kind of getting us out of our own heads, right? If we're really depressed and we're really sad and we're stuck in our breakup and we can't kind of get out of that, by putting ourselves out of our comfort zone, helping other people into a soup kitchen situation, it's going to really bring us back to a sense of gratitude for what we do have. And also you feel great when you help people, you know, it does give you that little bit of a buzz. Obviously, we do want to cut the cord with this person. So it can be really hard these days with breakups because you've got all your social media, you've got obviously their mobile number, you've got their family members you've probably got online as well. So looking up our ex and following our ex on social media is not often a helpful thing to do. It can really be upsetting for us if our ex maybe moves on with someone else. So I would suggest just cutting the cord clean and doing a communication break where you don't talk to them at all for a little while, just to work yourself out and just to kind of let go. A really good idea, I know people, the idea of deleting their number out of their phone is horrifying for some people. So what you can do instead is you can give your friend their number, get your friend to hold on to their number for you. You delete it out of your phone. So then there's no risk of drunk dialing. There's no risk of calling them and trying to get back with them. But at the same time, if you ever do need that number for whatever reason, you can go to your friend and you can go, hey, I really need this. By cutting contact, it really gives us a sense of processing of what we're going through. When we have contact with that person, sometimes that means we can get kind of pulled back into their orbit, especially if it was a breakup where the person was a little bit toxic or something like that. Often these people know how to be manipulative and can kind of pull us back, draw us back in with the good stuff when maybe we know that they're not quite right for us. So cutting the cord with that situation can be really helpful as well. And seek help as required. So there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days with breakups. Like, we're human, you know, you're not going to like be perfect after a month or anything like that. So if you're finding that you're having more bad days than good days, and it has been a little while, I would suggest to go out and chat to someone. You don't have to do all this alone, guys. You can seek help if you do need to. If your emotions are just too much to handle and it's just all too overwhelming for you, I would suggest to seek help as well. Breakups can be really hard and they can be really messy, and these things can go on a while. It's always good to have someone in your corner, especially someone who has never met this other person or doesn't know the situation, so they're completely impartial. And just remember, guys, we grieve what matters to us. So we feel sad when we've lost things that were important to us. So it's kind of like that saying, better to have loved than lost than never to have loved at all. You know, you're grieving because it was something that mattered, you know, and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to give yourself that time. And I just wanted to end on that Winnie the Pooh quote, that braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. Remember that, because we always tend to not give ourselves as much credit as we deserve. And especially when we're going through a breakup, you are definitely stronger than you seem right now, because right now you are really fragile. But there'll come a time where you'll laugh again. There'll come a time where you might be ready to move on. You're not going to be stuck here forever. And I just want to remind you of that. So thanks, guys. I hope you've gotten something out of this tonight. And if there's any other topics you want me to talk about or any questions you've got, bye.